So today the topic is dynamic imposters, and as we look here on the patch notes, they have added the brand new dynamic imposter system to the game, which renders changes to the distant chunk PI meshes caused by players or zombies. What does that mean? Well, of course, if you destroy a building, maybe you make your own base or you add on to an existing structure, now you can have the game actually put that into the dynamic imposter system, which is basically distant terrain. For instance, the trader here is rendered. It's in-game for me. It's basically actual blocks. If I look at, for instance, the skyscrapers over there, or the mountains, or even the cities over there, or the trees, these are not actually in the game. It's a little bit like a canvas that has been applied in the distance to make it more realistic. And I've shown some of the differences between that and the earlier version, where basically it would fog out or there would basically be nothing. It would be emptiness. So the distant terrain is awesome. Now, one problem it had, or rather one weakness it had, was that it was not taking into account changes that you were making to the world, because it was rendered basically at generation time, I believe, when the map was generated, and it wasn't changed. But they have now, working with one of the modders in the community, you can see at the bottom, Danny Richardson, thank you very much, this is awesome, and it does allow you to turn that on in your game or on your server with a single player on your server, so that it actually will recalculate as you walk through the server or your game periodically. So this is a base that I created. Well, this is for my streamer weekend where we had a horde base here. So what I did as well, I then added on this one just to be able to showcase it, and I put in a land claim block. Now I took it out because the new distant terrain will still remain. So normally when you move far away, it would basically vanish, right? It would be at a distance of something like this. It would unrender, because now I think it's on the edge of not actually being in the game. I think definitely it's not in the game now. This is actually not in the game anymore. If you look at this whole structure, it's not in the game. It's saved down on the hard disk, so it's not in the game. But you can still see it because of this new dynamic imposter change. So as I move further away, it will still be there. Look at how cool it is. You can actually see it. So this is one of the really good changes that they've made in the system. Now, there are some settings for that as well. Let me go to the options. I believe it's under the video and dynamic mesh. And it tells you, do you have that enabled? What's the distance? What's the quality? Is it around the land claim versus the whole server? How many, I believe there's how many chunks around the land claim, so how many region loads it's doing, and how many meshes it will process concurrently in the background. If you do a lot of them, of course, that'll take more CPU. So there's a bunch of options for if you want to have it just around the land claim block, or where you want to have the whole server, which of course takes more CPU because it has to basically go through the whole map and fix it. So this is really cool, right? Now, there seems to be some problems with it. If you notice, the trader is supposed to be here. So this is, if you look around me here, this is my actual spawnable distance. So this, where I can see here, has actually spawned in the game. All right, these are blocks that are in the game. Out there, you have the distant terrain. However, we have this dead zone. And you can see the holes, which looks really weird. There seems to be some problem with the dynamic terrain, at least on this first experimental streamer version that we have, where there's a dead zone in there, because there's actually buildings here. And as I go closer, you'll see they start spawning in the blocks themselves, but the distant terrain is not there, which looks really weird. So you didn't even see that there was a big skyscraper there. But as I go further away, at some point, distant terrain will actually stop popping in. There you go. Now you start seeing the distant terrain that is popping in here, which looks really weird, but it's not perfect because there is no skyscraper. There's supposed to be a skyscraper here, and you see things are popping in and then popping out and everything. So there seems to be some small problems with how it's actually handling distant terrain that is not perfect. You see, as I go closer, it's rendering in. As I move away, it basically vanishes even if it's there. So this is something that I spoke to Kinjayu when he was, Kinjayu is one of the coders from the FunPimps who was in my stream yesterday, and showed him a little bit what I was finding. This is obviously not a critical flaw. it's obviously something they want to fix. But at least for my base, it's always showing. Thank you for. So let me show you something else here. If you walk over here or fly over like I am, you don't see anything at all. But as you get closer, you'll see there's a nice tower. I mean, it's just a 1x1. And you'll see that vanish as I go too far away. And as I come back, it'll start rendering in as well. Because it's not part of the distant terrain. But I can force that to happen. So I put down the land claim block. And let me go away. I'm not sure how quickly it actually updates the dynamic imposter. It was really fast before. It sometimes takes a while because it has to re-render this one and include it in the distant terrain. So let me give it a little bit of time. And coming back here after a while, oh, look at this beautiful tower. I put down a land claim block and oh, now I can see it from a distance. It looks so beautiful. Yeah. I'm not really sure why this one is not being included in distant terrain, because I've waited a bunch of time. I've saved the world. I have increased the settings. I have restarted this server, and it's not being processed. So there could be some, like I said, some problems with distant terrain that is not fully fixed. And I'm not sure whether I broke it on the server when I did this. If you look, for instance, at the, you might be wondering, why is it so splotchy? Well, actually, all this was black. I had painted all this black, and as I was enabling distant terrain, it actually removed the paint. Go figure why. No idea at all. And maybe something broke. Maybe the process or something is not running properly. Not really sure, because, yeah, it's... or maybe I have to sit here a couple of hours before it actually gets through and adds that on. It could also be that it's so busy processing this area, because I think we put down a... It's good to be online. We did put down a land claim block around the city as well, so maybe it's super busy trying to go through all this to calculate the distant terrain before it actually gets to my little pathetic tower over here. Anyway, so it's there. It's not perfect. It's a start, and I'm sure they're going to be making that work as well. It's a really cool system. I am glad. Stop. I am glad we can turn at least your mouth off. So really good system, and it's going to be really cool when they get that tweaked and fine-tuned, so that you can actually, let's say you have your nice base here. You see the sun comes up, actually it goes down. Sun goes down there, and someone has built a massive castle up here, for instance. It would show up, and think about how awesome that would be. I mean, I can't think of many more things they could do in the distant terrain that would make it more awesome, because that's like the final piece de la resistance for the game, at least when it comes to the dynamic imposter distant terrain. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. Go enjoy it, and do expect some bugs to occur. And if you run into some bugs, let me know on the comment section below. So I would definitely love to see what weird behavior you might run into, or maybe it's been working flawlessly for you. I'm doing this on a server, and it's very possible that it works better in single player, because single player is a lot easier to test. Multiplayer has a lot of other weird things, because you have the server, you have the client that you have to cooperate as well. But anyway, I'll see you next time.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the vetted community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.